once you begin to appreciate the structure of the mind, there's no reason to believe that anything about us can't be changed. Pain can be destroyed. The mind can be solved.
How many of your subjects have ended up catatonic?
0, roughly.
My head doesn't work right. I thought maybe these people could fix me. Sounds stupid.
That doesn't sound stupid to me.
Okay, people, let's begin.
And this one has Emma Stone and not Seth Rogen, the other one, Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill.
Yeah, and don't worry, they're kind of alike, aside from Jonah
They're
Hill.
They're kind of the same guy.
Yeah, Jonah Hill just slimmed down a lot. And this premise of the show is kind of like these two people that were put in this kind of like a new technology trial, kind of there, where basically if they go through this technological trial that they're trying to show, the whole point of it is to get rid of negative emotions and negative I suppose like baggage type of thing, and the way they go through it is different. For example, Jonah Hill kind of goes through this trial because he kind of feels like he's missing out a lot of things. He's very like enclosed in his life, while Emma Stone's character is obviously I don't want to spoil it, but certain things happen to her past and she fakes her way to get into the trial because there's certain things in her past where she wants to forget. And it kind of follows these two, mostly these two characters in this weird, kind of looks very 80s-esque, but it's set in the future aesthetic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I watched the first episode of this show, and one of the like standout things in it was how grounded the show is, but also how futuristic it was. Again, it's kind of doing the how we sometimes talk about like a neo noir kind of aesthetic. Like, they have like kind of old school like furniture or like something like that, but then like, oh, by the way, like you're at this like futuristic looking drug clinic and things like that. It is really interesting. Again, I really like the look of this particular show. But again, this is one of the shows that's on my list of things to watch. Because in the first episode, Jonah Hill's character, he gets upset at every like his family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess like everyone else, like I found it really interesting that like everyone else made it out to be such like a big deal, right? They're like, oh, he got angry. He didn't even really get angry, like in my opinion. But I guess that might be something that's explored later on in this show.
Yeah, there's a lot of like unreliable narrator type of things where it's like you probably have to watch kind of a lot of it to kind of really understand where it's like this doesn't feel right or doesn't feel justified, but obviously the way the show moves, it kind of goes in that particular way. But yeah, this is one of those, like, once again, it is a self-contained thing, so pretty much it's just a long movie, and the way it works is, it basically relies on these two characters where obviously there's like a semi kind of connection between them, kind of like a romance together.
Okay.
Yeah. But the way I think this show kind of can be very evolving in a sense, and like where it could focus on other characters in like another space or time is because when they try these this technological trial that does kind of neural stuff through their brain, and kind of like, I guess, the hook of the show, because I didn't know what the really show was really about until like once you watch it, like maybe 2 or 3 episodes in, is that each kind of episode or even half an episode, they're in a different state of mind or I guess world, and it's kind of like it's very fun. I feel like it doesn't get promoted in this show, but the show in and of itself is very fun. Like, for example, I think in the 3rd episode, it shows that Emma Stone's character and her sister, like in her brain, they're in like a fantasy world where like they're both elves and like they fight dragons and stuff like that. And then there's like one episode, like episode 4 or 5, basically Jonah Hill and Emma Stone's character, they're playing a couple in the 80s/90s, and they're kind of like this scummy couple, and then it goes all through kind of genre tropes. Like there's one like the spy thriller one, the mafia boss type of one, and it kind of does these little tropes inside, and it's really fun to see these characters play out these type of tropes, and kind of like it's kind of like a movie, like movie within a movie, where like they're kind of playing off these things. Where it's like I'm watching a movie of these two characters inside this TV show play out these type of scenarios, and I feel like that to me is kind of like the highlight of the show, and the way it structures it. But the second half, it kind of reins everything kind of in, because a lot of it is with the people who are running the scientific trials, and they don't have any names, and they're scientists that have this like 80s look to them, but once again it's futuristic, and everything kind of feels like a dream. It's very hard to explain, but everything in this show feels like a dream. Even like the reality that you see is a dream, and it's kind of like these characters are kind of acting like Wes Anderson characters, if that makes any sense. Did you watch much Wes Anderson films?
I think I may have, but like again, like in regards to the show itself, again, it probably would make more sense like if I watched the show. That makes sense.
Yeah, because like the characters act like they wouldn't act in real life, like our grounded world. Like they feel very heightened, or like very like dreamlike, where it's like this doesn't feel real, or like someone's like it feels like semi overacting, but it's done intentionally.
Right.
Where like normal things wouldn't work out the way it is, because it's just slightly different.
Is this purely when they're in this like they're having this like kind of dreamscape, or when they are also when they're interacting in the real world, quote unquote?
Yeah, in the real world as well. In both ways.
Interesting.
But like that's the thing. I think it's more restrained to the scientists in the show that they see in the real world. All the other characters act real, but like I feel like the main, I guess, the main tech people as well as the other thing, because there's like a relationship that going on, and then there's stuff got to do with the AI of the actual machine that they're using, and a lot of stuff. It does feel not so grounded, but it has a different flavor to it. But once again, it's very fun, and if I remember correctly, each episode it can vary from time to time. I think there was like one episode that was like 35 minutes, and then other episodes were like 50 minutes, so it kind of juggles back and forth. So it just depends on the subject matter that they have. But overall, I do like the show. It has a very unique premise, as well as kind of like it's just very interesting. Once again, it is kind of a one-off. I think the main guy, who is now doing True Detective season 3, he said this is pretty much going to be a one-off. But obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if it's also done in the same world, where he's just like, yep, we can do this with these different characters and put them in this different situation. Because generally the overall story is like these two people who are kind of estranged, kind of find a bond together in these kind of in their own kind of mind in these worlds, and they kind of connect together through this machine, and then it kind of reflects back to it in the real world. So it's kind of like a romance story, but it's like a very heightened overacting romance story.
Okay, yeah. I mean, sounds interesting. Again, it's always good to see Netflix kind of investing in original series and putting like big name talents behind unique concepts, right? Like, because from my understanding, Maniac isn't based on a novel or a movie or some other kind of thing, right? Like some other kind of source, correct?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think I have heard that it's maybe semi-based on something like a short story, but that's really as far as it gets. But still, like it's one of those things.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, again, like even if it's something like a short story, like again, like as much as I don't like the depiction of this movie because it's kind of okay, like iRobot is a quote unquote adaptation of the iRobot book, but it kind of isn't. It really isn't. It kind of borrows concepts of it and deals with it. Even if it's the same with this show, it's always interesting to see and good to see Netflix kind of investing their monies towards making original content like this. And again, with big actors, because again, it lends to the credibility of these streaming services, because I feel like, you know, and maybe there's a little bit of you know, people kind of don't take it too seriously because, like, oh, it streams on Netflix, like, you know, oh, I can't get like a big contract kind of thing. But I think slowly, like, I think a lot of people are moving toward, a lot of actors, even big name actors, movie actors, are going towards like these kind of big Hulu, Netflix. I know over here we have Stan, all these shows to kind of, you know, get their paychecks because people are tuning in and watching shows and subscribing, and it's a good way for, I guess, people to consume media. So I do like that Netflix is experimenting with stuff like that with big name actors.
Yeah, like it's like basically the state of the industry right now is like big blockbuster films that like at least 2 to 3 films always fail per year, or they don't make gross enough money where it's like it always kind of bombs. The middle type of films are pretty much dead and gone because to get funding for those kind of semi-medium to smaller films are very hard. I think like the only people that kind of hit that target really well, like with the small budget stuff, aside from the indie stuff that doesn't get seen, is like Bloomhouse Productions. I think they're the only ones that kind of make medium tier films.
I see. Yeah.
And most of that medium tier type of thing has moved on to streaming only kind of Netflix, Amazon, Hulu type things nowadays, where it's like it's a very specific target instead of just like mass distributing things. So like I feel like a lot of these streaming services are kind of taking these type of like medium core like ideas and things like that it have a semi following to now TV shows, and I feel like that's also a good premise of what they're doing now. So I feel like streaming is actually doing really quite well. But yeah, as I was mentioning before, another thing which is actually a very interesting take, because this was supposed to be a TV show, but then got turned into a movie because I guess they didn't have as much content as they thought they were, is actually another Netflix. I feel like I'm sponsoring Netflix these days. Is The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. This was going to be the first foray of Ethan and Joel Coen's. This is going to be like their TV show. If you don't know the Coen brothers, they are pretty much just well known for a lot of things. Pretty much No Country for Old Men, The Big Lebowski. You know, they pretty much had a really good career of building up very unique characters and very unique situations. One of my favorite films from them, which is also a Western, as well as The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, is True Grit, the remake. I really loved that film when that came out. I need to rewatch it again because I really loved it.